The Galactic Senate believed diplomacy was a game of posture, smiles, and empty threats. Then they invited Earth's representative to the Grand Assembly. He arrived alone, smiled politely, and the galaxy hasn't slept well since. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Concord sat beneath the opalescent dome of Zareth Prime, its 1,000 alien delegates casting distorted reflections in the crystalline walls. Ornate, towering beings with shimmering skin, bio-circuited robes, or silicon-plated faces lined the crescent chamber, all unified by one concern: Earth. At the center stood a single figure, human. Ambassador Elliot Graves didn't look like the kind of entity that terrified warlords. No ceremonial armor. No personal guard. Just a sharp navy suit, clean shoes, and a calm, unreadable face. He stood with his hands politely clasped behind his back, posture relaxed, as if waiting for a delayed dinner reservation, not a political reckoning. Chancellor Vurax of the Drexy opened the session with a hiss click. You are summoned to answer for Earth's violations. Colonization of restricted space. Unauthorized weapon trials. Disruption of treaty protocols. Your people are reckless, Ambassador. Elliot nodded once, smoothly. Thank you, Chancellor, for such a warm welcome. A ripple of discomfort rolled through the chamber. Every word he spoke felt too measured, too smooth. Humanity's pattern of behavior, snarled High Lord Lurek of the VACAR, proves your species is incapable of understanding balance. You expand too fast. You observe nothing. You threaten the stability we've built. Elliot adjusted his cuff. On the contrary, High Lord, we observed everything. Carefully. Patiently. For centuries. Then why breach the borders of 6 sovereign systems? Lurek growled. Elliot smiled, a tight, charming expression that didn't quite reach his eyes. We believed those systems were unclaimed. They appeared rather empty, except for some debris and, if I recall, an abandoned VACAR outpost marked Do Not Enter. We assumed it was more of a suggestion. Several alien delegates gasped. A few chuckled. Lurek bristled. Admiral Quotan of the Threx Coalition leaned forward. Her scales glimmered like wet stone. Your probe ships disabled our perimeter defenses without engagement. That's not exploration. That's an act of war. We prefer the term diagnostics, Elliot said softly. Your systems were weak. We couldn't help but notice. Quotan's pupils narrowed into slits. Are you threatening the Concord? Elliot blinked, puzzled. Threatening? Goodness, no. I'm here as a diplomat. Diplomats never threaten. He stepped forward. We merely observe patterns and adjust accordingly. A subtle silence fell across the chamber, too long to be comfortable. A quiet dread took root in a few delegates' expressions, because in truth, the humans had adjusted. Decades ago, they were the quiet newcomers, eager to sign treaties, always smiling, always learning. They asked endless questions, took meticulous notes, and rarely spoke twice in a negotiation. But in the last 10 years, something changed. Human vessels began moving faster. Their encryption became unreadable. Planets near Earth's borders began losing probes. Fleets vanished without skirmishes, and no wreckage was ever found. Scholar Vench, a soft-spoken historian from the Yertel monastic order, broke the silence. Ambassador Graves, he said carefully, would you enlighten the Assembly on Earth's recent technological leap? Our analysts cannot trace its origin. Your last patent filing was 70 standard years ago. Elliot tilted his head, amused. We discovered that filing was inefficient. So we stopped sharing. Lurek snarled. You hid your advancements. Elliot's smile returned. High Lord, we never agreed to disclose everything. Only what we deemed non-critical. And as we've found, everything is critical. The phrase echoed like a loaded gun in the chamber. Admiral Quotan whispered to her adjutant. Moments later, 2 security drones hovered behind Elliot, scanning. Nothing. They pulsed again, still nothing. No weapons detected, the Admiral said, frowning. I know, Elliot replied. They're not with me. The words were too casual, too confident. The chamber grew colder despite the atmospheric regulation. Lurek stood. This assembly is no longer a diplomatic session. It is a tribunal. The human delegation is to be held pending further. Elliot raised a hand, not high, not aggressively. Just enough. May I offer a parable? He asked. That threw them. The request was strange. Oddly timed. Proceed, Chancellor Vurax said warily. There was once a forest, Elliot began, voice smooth, where predators ruled. Each had teeth, claws, venom. They hunted. They competed. They feared each other. Then, one day, a strange creature arrived. No claws. No venom. It brought seeds instead of swords. It listened, watched, adapted. The predators laughed. Until they stopped laughing. Because one by one, they started disappearing. He took a few slow steps, hands still behind his back. No one knew where the stranger came from, or how it was always 10 steps ahead. It didn't grow stronger. It grew smarter. It rewrote the rules. It built walls where there were none, dug traps beneath smiles. And when the forest turned to ashes, only one creature remained. The chamber was dead silent. Elliot looked up and added, sometimes, the most dangerous thing in the forest is the one you never bothered to fear. Chancellor Vurax's voice was barely audible. Is that a human fable? Elliot looked him in the eye. It's a memory. The drones behind him powered down. The security systems glitched, lights flickering once across the dome. No alarms sounded. No warnings were issued. It was quiet. Too quiet. Elliot straightened his jacket. I believe that concludes our conversation, he said calmly. Earth thanks the Concord for its hospitality. We'll be watching your next moves very closely. As he turned to leave, one delegate dared to speak. What are you planning? Elliot didn't stop walking. But he answered, softly. We're not planning. We're executing. The doors opened before him, unprompted. He didn't look back. But the assembly did. Because something had just shifted. And they all felt it. Zareth Prime's night sky never truly darkened. Its 3 moons ensured a constant, ghostly shimmer over the planet's surface. But inside the diplomatic observation spire, there was a chill that artificial heating couldn't suppress. Chancellor Vurax's gnarled hands gripped the polished obsidian rail, his frills rigid. He never raised his voice, he muttered. Not once. Behind him, Admiral Quotan stood with arms crossed, tail twitching in tight arcs. It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. As if we'd already lost. Maybe we have, said Vench, entering the room with an ancient datapad tucked under one arm. I've spent 3 days decoding human folklore since the session. They're stories. Most are warnings. Parables wrapped in humor. They don't just fight wars. They bait them. You think this is bait? Quotan asked sharply. I think, Vench replied, we were just corralled like livestock. They all stared at the far skyline where Elliot Graves had vanished in his unarmed shuttle. Unescorted. Untouched. Down below, the hangar gates closed behind him like a final period on a very carefully written sentence. Aboard the Concord vessel Serenity's Blade, the air was stale with tension. He smiled again, didn't he? Captain Uthes snarled as his sensor officer reviewed the playback. Rewind that. I want to see the exact frame where he says, we're not planning, we're executing. It's frame 32317, the officer replied flatly. We've all memorized it, sir. Uthes growled and tapped the console. Why do humans smile when making threats? Do they enjoy it? They seem to, muttered the comms tech. Creepiest species we've met, and we made treaties with mist clouds that scream at sunrise. Elliot Graves sat alone in the shuttle's cockpit, sipping lukewarm tea from a reinforced thermos. Across from him, a holographic projection shimmered to life, Admiral Julia Reyes, head of Earth's Strategic Diplomatic Front. Report, she said crisply. He leaned back, expression unreadable. Phase 1 complete. They're rattled. Define rattled. They argued for 3 hours after I left. 2 delegates called emergency planetary security meetings. 1 proposed a military embargo. None reached consensus. Fear short-circuited strategy. Reyes allowed herself a tight nod. And our installations? Deep space obfuscation fields remain undetected. Fleet positioning secure. They believe we're playing the old Earth game of diplomacy. Reyes leaned forward. We're not, Elliot. You understand that, yes? He raised a brow. We never were. She held his gaze. Then prepare for Phase 2. Tomorrow, leak the encoded broadcast to the Threx border stations. Let the signal look accidental. He smiled. Just barely. Message received. Aboard the VA car warship Obsidian Spire. High Lord Lurex stood before the war table, mandibles grinding in agitation. The humans want us scared. So we respond with strength. One of his advisors, a graying tactician named Selk, huffed. But what if they've planned for our strength? Lurek turned sharply. We're the apex power in Quadrant 6. They're one planet. One species. We have numbers. You also had numbers, Selk replied, before the Barre system fleet vanished. Without a trace. That stopped the room. Lurek's tone dropped. You think they did that? Selk tapped a claw to the holographic map. The Barre fleet vanished weeks after a human scout ship passed through. No weapons fired. Just silence. Lurek stared at the silent quadrant. Prepare reconnaissance. If Earth's playing games, we end them. Selk hesitated. With respect, my lord, I think we already entered their game. Zareth Prime, lower districts. Vench walked through the archives with hands behind his back, guiding a younger monk through the human section. They record everything, he said, motioning toward the shelf of Earth literature. Even their failures. Especially their failures. The apprentice picked up a tattered volume, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. This doesn't look human. It isn't, Vench agreed. But they adopted it. Refined it. Their culture absorbs ideas like lungs absorb air. And then, he tapped the side of his head, they turn them into weapons. The apprentice opened the book, puzzled. But these are just strategies. Vench gave a grim smile. That's what worries me. They don't distinguish between diplomacy and warfare. To them, both are forms of pressure. He paused, recalling Graves' parable. They don't roar before they strike, he whispered. They invite you in. 3 days later, outer Threx border. At 4:17 local time, a scrambled transmission reached 4 Threx stations simultaneously. It contained a data burst with cryptic Earth idioms, satellite imagery of a VA car fleet docked near neutral space, and one image in pristine high definition. A single human diplomat standing before a sealed VA car vault. Smiling. The message header read, Curiosity didn't kill the cat. The cat volunteered. Panic spread like wildfire. Within 6 hours, the Threx mobilized defensive positions. The VA car accused them of espionage. The Yertel proposed emergency talks. And Earth? Earth didn't respond at all. Back on Earth's Lunar Command facility, Admiral Reyes stood before a small room of silent observers, scientists, tacticians, analysts. Our goal was never total war, she said calmly. Just alignment. But alignment through what? Asked one. Reyes tapped the display. Through dread. They must fear being wrong about us. Isn't that manipulation? Another asked. Reyes gave a tired smile. No. It's diplomacy. Zareth Prime, diplomatic courtyard. Elliot Graves strolled among bioluminescent trees, flanked by 2 silent drone companions. Chancellor Vurax caught up, breath short. You've lit a fire, Vurax said without preamble. Elliot didn't stop walking. No. I found one already smoldering and added oxygen. The Chancellor cut in front of him. What do you want? Elliot considered it. A galactic equilibrium. Where Earth isn't treated as the new pet. Where you think twice before circling us like prey. You want respect? No, he smiled faintly. I want certainty. I want you to be absolutely certain that poking Earth leads to disaster. Vurax studied him. You were always this dangerous, weren't you? Elliot finally stopped. Chancellor, we mastered fire while still fearing the dark. Do you truly believe we crawled out of that without a backup plan? He turned away again. I suggest your council begins preparing one of its own. No one could say exactly when it started. No declaration, no formal breach. Just one empty relay station. Then 2. Then 8. Gone. No distress calls. No wreckage. Just silence. The Concorde blamed the VA car. The VA car accused the Threx. The Threx blamed the humans. Earth, predictably, denied everything, with a warm smile and an offer for tea. And suddenly, galaxies that had spent centuries posturing now watched each other with twitching fingers on the trigger. All because of one diplomat. Command deck, VA car capital flagship Devourer's Claw. High Lord Lurek's voice boomed across the war hall. "I am not asking if the humans might be dangerous," he snarled. "I am asking why the last 20 reconnaissance drones we sent toward Earth went dark." "They were likely intercepted," offered Selk, his tone cautious. "But without trace." "Then trace something." Lurek slammed a claw down on the display, causing the holographic map to ripple. A younger aide shuffled forward. "We intercepted another encoded message. Earth signal, but not meant for us." "Play it." A scrambled voice filtered through. "Target patience. Nearing critical velocity. Let the first strike come from them. Appear wounded. Bleed loud." Lurek's frills recoiled. "They want us to strike." Selk leaned in, voice low. "What if we already have, and we don't even know it?" Moon Base Athena, Earth Strategic Command. Admiral Reyes stood before a curved holoscreen. For simultaneous feeds showed Threx warships shifting formations, VA car patrols burning fuel through hyperlanes, and the Concorde deploying scouts in pairs instead of singles. "Good," she murmured. "They're sweating." Beside her, Colonel Mika Jong sipped from a thermos. "I still don't get how you got them to this point without firing a single shot." "We have fired shots," Reyes said. "They just haven't heard the booms yet." Jong raised an eyebrow. "You've been quoting Graves a lot lately." She nodded. "Man's an artist with tension. Every room he leaves, the walls hum with unease." He tilted his head. "You think they'll break soon?" "No," she said, eyes narrowing. "I think they already have." Zareth Prime, Underground Council Chamber. "I will not sit idly by while this earthling plays puppet master with galactic peace," barked a Threx ambassador, slamming his tail on the stone floor. "And I will not let the VA car dictate our response," snapped a Concorde delegate. In the chaos, Chancellor Vurax raised a single finger. The room fell still. "We cornered a species," he said, voice quiet. "And we assumed its teeth were ornamental." A murmur rose. "We thought the smiles meant surrender. We thought, wrong." "Then what do you propose?" the Yertel representative asked. Vurax took a breath. "We send a fleet to Earth's outer system. Not to strike. To test. A show of force. One move forward on the chessboard." "And what if it is a trap?" Vurax's gaze hardened. "Then we finally know the rules of the game we've been playing blind. Low Earth orbit, observation post NYX. The scout ships appeared at exactly 0400 hours. 12 vessels. Not armed for war, but not innocent, either. Just enough to rattle a cage, not break it." Inside Earth's observation post, Lieutenant Reed adjusted his headset. Command? We've got uninvited guests knocking at the outer picket line. IDs. Mixed flags. VA car, Threx, Concorde. No formal hail." Rhea's voice crackled through. "Do not engage. Activate Protocol Raven." Quietly. Reed raised a brow. "Seriously? You think they'll fall for it?" "Oh, they already have." Protocol Raven was elegant in its simplicity. Earth's outer defense satellites emitted a rotating cycle of phantom signals, shifting energy spikes, artificial radiation blooms, subtle gravitational anomalies. Nothing harmful. Nothing provable. But very loud, very deliberate noise. To an outsider, it looked like something massive cloaked in orbit. Or several somethings. The alien scouts paused. Scanned. Paused again. And then turned around. Meanwhile, Elliot Graves' quarters, en route to the Zareth neutral zone. Elliot adjusted his cufflinks, staring into the mirror with calm precision. Behind him, his AI assistant, Hallie, projected a summary of intercepted transmissions. "Their response time was faster than anticipated," Hallie said. "The fleet reached Earth's edge within 72 hours. Elliot nodded. They were hoping for weakness. Instead, they found noise. He smiled faintly. Noise is a language all its own. Hallie shifted tone. Would you like me to prepare your opening statement for the neutral summit? No. I want it to sound spontaneous. Your last 10 spontaneous speeches caused 3 resignations and a minor coup. Exactly. Neutral summit, Zareth orbit. The chamber was unusually quiet. Dozens of species, hundreds of voices, but all eyes fell on the lone human at the center. Elliot Graves, hands folded politely, back straight, face unreadable. Chancellor Vurax cleared his throat. Mr. Graves, we find ourselves at an impasse. Tell us, why should we not consider Earth a growing threat? Elliot's eyes flicked upward. Well, he began, tone light, humans are good at many things. Starting fires, surviving winters, microwaving fish in communal break rooms. A few snorts. But above all, we are excellent at noticing patterns. And what we noticed, he said, voice deepening slightly, was that every time we played by your rules, we were underestimated. Talked down to. Ignored. He let that settle. So we stopped playing. Murmurs. Elliot stood slowly. We don't want war. But we're no longer afraid of it. We don't seek dominance. But we've prepared for the worst day of our lives every single day since we learned to sharpen sticks. A long silence. And if that day comes, it won't be Earth that ends. It'll be assumptions. He bowed his head. That's all. Then he Saturday. The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was dense. Solid. Like the moment before a dam breaks. Vakar warship hangar bay. Selk stood beside Lurek, watching the summit on a flickering screen. He just declared war without using the word, Lurek muttered. No, Selk replied. He just declared dominance. Moon base Athena. Reyes turned to Jong. We just passed the tipping point. He raised an eyebrow. And now? She smiled coldly. Now they choose. Kneel, or escalate. Final transmission intercepted that night. Corner a human diplomat, and you don't cage him, you lock yourself in with him. They thought they had us surrounded. What they didn't know is that we brought the walls. Somewhere in interstellar dead space. Threx Command Carrier Vigilant Sky. 340 Universal Time Coordinated. Alarms pulsed low and red. The kind of light that didn't blink, it warned. Vice Admiral Korak stood rigid at the forward display, his mandibles twitching with uncertainty. Report, he barked. The tech's voice was tight. We lost Fleet Group 7. Entire cluster. No mayday, no residual debris. Just blank. Korax turned sharply. Sabotage. No. Not unless sabotage erases mass from the fabric of space. He narrowed his eyes. They're not just hiding. They're erasing their footsteps. A second voice chimed in, older, seasoned, but trembling now. Admiral, their last ping was 30 light minutes from the Sol line. Korax's stomach dropped. They were outside the human quarantine zone. The officer nodded. Well outside. Korax looked into the black beyond the viewport. A line had been crossed, and the silence was Earth's only reply. Mars Forward Operations Command, Stonehall. Admiral Reyes stared at the red hologram slowly spinning in front of her. 12 ships, all belonging to the Coalition's show of force fleet. Each marked decommissioned. Mika Jong leaned in. That was surgical. Quick. Silent. You really told Graves to greenlight that? Reyes didn't blink. Graves doesn't take orders. He just times things. And the Threx. They were warned. She tapped her finger lightly against the command table. No flags. No declaration. Just a lesson. Jong exhaled. Message received. Reyes turned to him, calm but firm. No, Colonel. That was just the envelope. Zareth Summit. 3 hours later. It was quiet when Elliot Graves entered again. No diplomatic flares. No formal announcement. Just the soft click of leather shoes echoing across the obsidian floor. He approached the same center position. Same posture. But something in the air had changed. He didn't sit. The Concorde chairwoman stood. We have confirmed the loss of our ships. All 12. Not a trace. Not a warning. Graves nodded politely. Yes. You admit responsibility? Graves folded his hands behind his back. Responsibility? No. We didn't invite them. But we are responsible for Earth's safety. And those vessels crossed a line we very clearly drew. You executed a dozen warships. He tilted his head. We eliminated a threat. A silent, deliberate one. No crew screamed. No wreckage floated. We ended it the same way it was delivered. The Viekar High Lord hissed. You call that diplomacy? Elliot's voice stayed mild. No. That's deterrence. He looked around the room. We warned you for decades. You took our silence as weakness. Our restraint as passivity. You poked. We endured. You threatened. We prepared. His voice dropped, ice under velvet. You touched our doorstep. A long pause. Then Vurax, the old chancellor, leaned forward. What do you want, human? Elliot smiled thinly. Clarity. He turned to a side panel, tapped in a sequence. The holodisplay flickered. A map of the galaxy. Then a layered overlay, red lines forming a web around Sol, looping outward like tightening wire. This is the defense perimeter Earth has quietly maintained for 70 years. If you had paid attention, you'd have noticed systems going dark. Facilities appearing, then vanishing. You assumed it was paranoia. Overreaction. The map zoomed further. Hundreds of tiny data points marked autonomous defense network. You were wrong. He gestured. This is not a wall. It's a mirror. The moment you stepped in, it began learning you. Viekar Border Patrol, minutes later. 6 ships, patrol formation. Then static. Lights dim. Every system chirped wrong numbers. Engines fired. Into reverse. No explosion. No drama. Just sudden, absolute disassembly. Molecule by molecule. No trace. Zareth Summit. You're bluffing, one Concorde envoy snapped. Elliot didn't answer. Instead, Rhea's voice came through a secure line. Deploying Black Curtain Protocol. Confirming wipe of unauthorized incursions. The envoy paled. You deployed a planetary-grade defense net across 6 systems. No, Elliot replied. We built new systems. Empty ones. Designed to look vulnerable. Like bait. He walked slowly toward the center again. You wanted to test us? So we gave you simulations. Controlled, clinical, quiet. And when you took the bait, we let you in, so you'd walk straight into our hands. His tone softened, almost kind. You wanted to see what Earth was hiding. Now you've seen it. And if we retaliate? The Threx ambassador asked. Graves smiled. Then you'll learn what we're not hiding. Meanwhile, Earth Secret Core Command Hub, Umbra. A dark room. No windows. No walls, only screens. Thousands. A woman with grey hair and tired eyes watched the Zareth feed. She turned to her aide. Initiate Omega silence. Let them talk themselves quiet. Yes, Final moments of the summit. Vurax stood again. You've made your point. No, Elliot said. We've made a decision. Earth will no longer answer to councils that don't value consequence. You're isolating yourself. We're isolating the problem. He turned, walking away with calm purpose. As the summit erupted behind him, Graves spoke one last sentence without looking back. You cornered the wrong species. Outside the Galactic Council, in transit, a VA-car commander watched the final summit recording. He paused it at Elliot's exit. His second-in-command stepped forward. What do we do? The commander whispered, We retreat. To where? He looked out the viewport. Anywhere not in line of Earth's shadow. Epilogue transmission. From Earth Diplomatic AI Halley to all frontier beacons. To those who once doubted, you feared our fleets. You feared our weapons. But you should have feared our patience. You thought Earth was a planet. You forgot Earth is a species.